Phillips, we got to actually meet two congressmen that covered Stockton. We got to meet Congressman McNerney. He was awesome. He was very, very nice to us, and we really enjoyed it. And then Congressman Cardoza actually was in a meeting. He was actually in that big old dome voting and doing all of his official work and came out to speak with us. And the interesting point is it was a very crowded room, and there's a lot of noise, a lot of generals and stuff like that going in there. But there was like a connection. It was amazing. It's just like he really focused on Kenya and us and really spoke to us, and we got into some great adoption stories, which we all know is huge because the kids know that, and Sweet and I are into that. And it just felt like a personal connection. Well, of course, because he's the congressman for our school, for our area. So, of course, he's going to know, how to relate to us because he's like us. So, we'd really like to hear a little of your background and any advice you have for us.
Terrific. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me here to your school. It's an honor for me to come here. I want to thank the superintendent for being here. Thank you very much. It means a lot to me.
Thank you for coming.
He's a great man. He's working hard to improve our schools here in Stockton. So we have some work to do in the schools, but the school board and he are doing a great job trying to get us on that path. So thank you for that. I'm just so happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. My history is I grew up in Atwater, California. You all know where Atwater is? South of Modesto, north of Merced. And my grandparents came here in the 1920s. They immigrated here from the Azore Islands of Portugal, which are, I consider myself Hispanic because of my grandparents coming from the Hispaniola Peninsula, Portugal and Spain, and then the Azore Islands. How many of you are first-generation Americans? How many of you, your parents were not U.S. citizens beforehand? Quite a few? You don't have to raise your hand. It's okay. You're not always sure. Well, that's absolutely understandable in today's climate and the rest. But the reality of why I'm telling you this is my grandparents came here in the 1920s. They came with no education, no money. They didn't know the area, but they had a dream for a better life for themselves and their family, much like your parents probably do too for you. And my parents, when they came to school, the first time when they went to first grade, they didn't speak English. And they had to learn English as a second language. And I'm sure there's a few of you in this class that have that same situation. Well, my parents and my grandparents worked hard through the Depression and the rest, and they eked out a living as farmers. And then in the 1960s, my dad decided, he had had a couple good years in farming, and he decided there was this newfangled thing called air conditioning, and they were putting them in these this new thing of air conditioning in bowling alleys. And so my dad built a bowling alley so he could quit working in the hot fields, and so he could get in a place that was air conditioned. And from there, my dad only had an 8th grade education, and my mom only had a 10th grade education. They worked every single day. They'd go to church on Sunday, then they'd go to work. And they raised us in that business, and I am the first person in my family to ever go to college. When I was in first grade, I had kidney surgery. And I had some bad kidneys. Still got bad kidneys, but they fixed them enough to where I can function. And so I missed all of the basics on how to learn how to read. I didn't know how to learn how to read at all. I didn't read at all until I was in the 3rd grade. And a lady by the name of Peggy Heller at that point taught me how to read. The reason why I'm telling you all this is because some of you might think that because I'm a congressman now, I have an important job now, that it was always easy for me, that I was always the smartest kid in the class or something like that. I wasn't. But what I had was a lot of internal drive to succeed. I wanted to do better for myself, I wanted to improve myself, and I wanted to raise myself up. And so in 3rd grade, I finally started catching on. By high school, I was doing better. In my 2nd year of high school, I joined the speech team, and I became the #1 debate person in the school at Atwater High School. And so I went from not being able to read to being able to speak in front of large groups and knowing what I was talking about. It was a lot of hard work. And my message to you today is a couple things. First of all, you're not going to get anywhere if you don't have an education in today's society. You have to get an education. And second of all, nobody's going to do it for you. You got to do it yourself. You have to decide that you have an internal desire to succeed. You have to decide that you're going to school for you, not because your parents want you to, not because it makes your parents happy. It's because it's going to make you happy, and you're going to be a better person for it. How many of you like sports? Well, you guys know in sports, you can't watch somebody else run and get in shape. You got to run and get in shape. You got to have the talent. Well, the same thing's what happens with your brain. You have to exercise your brain the same way you do when you run down the field for a sporting event. And that takes work, and it takes effort, and it takes exercising that knowledge that you gain. End of lecture. The reality, though, is that I want to leave you with is that you can do anything you set your mind to, and don't let anybody hold you back. One last story. My dad didn't want me to go to college. I know that may seem strange, but my dad had an 8th grade education. He says, kid, I've done okay. I worked in my business every day. You can come take my business when I retire. And you don't need it to work hard and go to college and go to that expense. And I said, Dad, I do need to work hard and go to college. Because although I respect you very much, my life doesn't stop at a bowling alley. I want to go on and do more. And the day I got elected to the state legislature in Sacramento, now I work in Washington, but I used to work in Sacramento, my mom or dad were there. They were both in wheelchairs, and the tears in their eyes were coming down because they were very proud that I had been able to succeed in areas where they never even dreamed that I could go. And it was only because I had that dream to succeed that I was able to motivate myself, go to school, and do this.